Right. And anything we have questions on throughout this, like please stop me.
Okay.
Let's see if I can get into this slideshow. Okay, cool. So um, this call is going to be all about basically how we got paid um, 23,000 to buy a rental property versus having to sink 20 to 30,000 into a rental. So for some people, this may be like super simple. For other people, this may feel really complex. So I'm going to try to take it slow, and then we can kind of talk through how maybe this fits into your investment strategies kind of moving forward. So first thing, things we're going to kind of cover. So number one, like how we actually found the deal. I think that's like usually the hardest part for most people is like, how do I find deals? Two, the negotiation. So what was it subject to? Was it cash? Like how did that work? Problem that we ran into is almost every single time, and Cindy can attest to this, anytime we get a deal, there's basically going to be a problem that shows up if you get a good deal, like almost every time. So you just got to be waiting on the problem. Okay.
With a
Number
check.
four is that's right. Exactly. Yeah. How do we find our private lender? That's another question I get a lot. It's like, if I find a deal, like, how am I going to buy a rental? Like, where am I going to get the money from? We're going to go through all the numbers, property management, and then we're going to talk about the cash out refi. Okay. So, how we found the deal? We found this actually as a pre foreclosure, which we've talked about a lot on these calls. So, we target pre foreclosures, try to help them to either A, keep their house, or B, sell the property to us once we've kind of determined that maybe that's the best decision for them. The situation for this seller is he's actually 1 day away from foreclosure. So his auction was literally the next morning at 11 a.m. And he called me that day at like 10 a.m. And for context, this is a seller that we had actually followed up with for probably a month at this point. So we talked to him for about a month. And I have been cussed out multiple times by this seller, by the
Oh,
way.
wow.
I don't know if you know that, Cindy, but and
I
it's something
know.
about the energy I attract, I guess. Because it's like Griffin, he was super cool with Griffin. I get on the phone and he's like, F you and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I guess that's just me. I guess I'm the one that gets cussed out. I don't know. Cindy can attest to that too. I feel like people just get mad at me. So,
Well, Brett, remember in the
oh,
end,
Brett hated
unfortunately.
me. Oh, man. Whatever. So he was 1 day away. So he called us. I met him literally at Penn Station, some place here, and I got him a Reuben, and then we signed the contract.
I
It
love
just
it.
feels like made up. It was great. And then what he wanted basically a few months to stay in the home while he found the next place, and he wanted $5,000 cash in his pocket. There was a 4% interest rate on this house. There was a $145,000 mortgage balance. For us, the existing loan was the best asset here. So we decided to take that sub two. Now the negotiation, like we talked about, we take it sub two. I'll kind of go through this quick. 145,000. We give him 5 grand. Now, to stop the foreclosure, we only had what less than 24 hours, basically. So there's kind of two options you can take. Number one is postponing the sale. Does anybody know how to postpone a sale, or have we talked about that?
No.
Okay, so there's a lot that goes into it, but it's also very simple at the same time. And I think Cindy could attest to that again. That like it almost feels like a magical thing. It's like, how do people stop auctions? It's like, it's just a lot of hard work, to be honest. It's a lot of calling, it's a lot of following up, and ultimately, they're going to want several documents for you to send to them, which we can hop on that like on another call and talk through all of this. But you're going to send them all the documents, you request a postponement, you follow up basically 5 times a day, and just bug the crap out of them until they give you an answer. That's basically the gist of it. Okay. In this case, we only had 24 hours, so we don't have time to like really do that. So we reinstated his loan. So we brought his loan current. In exchange, what's something that you would want as an investor? If you're going to spend money on $15,000 to reinstate a loan, what would you want as your security? Okay,
Probably the title of the property.
fair enough. Yeah. So we had him sign over a warranty deed to us that we had notarized and all that kind of stuff. So in case he tries to run off or something happens, then we're protected, right? So basically, after all that, our total purchase price is around 165. Here's what happened.
Wait,
Tragic turn of events.
Kevin,
This
did
is
you do
scary.
this?
I did.
You did a
This is,
wonderful job. This whole thing is amazing. This
oh, thanks.
presentation. Great job.
Try to make it a little more entertaining. Okay.
Wow.
I appreciate it. AI helps a little bit too. So, but basically what ended up happening is we had that signed. So he signed it to us that night. Then he knows where I'm going with this.
This is this one.
And yeah, yep. And the next
Oh,
morning I go to his house, we reinstate the loan, and I go to knock on his door to tell him, hey, we got the option stop, right? And the neighbors come up to me and they're like, hey, have you talked to him at all? I'm like, no. And it turns out about 2 hours after I met him and signed the deed, he got in a car accident and passed away. Um, so he got drunk, got in a car accident, and had a cardiac arrest and passed away. Um, this is obviously extremely sad. It was very emotional for me, and I think the whole team kind of felt it, honestly. Um, so that was really hard. It also made the deal very difficult because now the brothers are involved. His heirs are basically calling me and us and saying, hey, this should be ours. This is going to go to probate. We're going to sue you, like all this kind of stuff. And I'm on vacation with, yeah, anyways, I'm on vacation and I'm getting all these calls. And so I'm just like, man, this is like the last thing I need. So we have to play kind of hardball with them. And what ends up happening is our decision was actually just to pay off the loan entirely. Because I think anytime, and this is a good little like gold nugget, I think for anybody doing sub two deals, anytime you feel something get a little hairy or fishy on a sub two deal, it's like, I don't know. If you have a chance to pay it off and just like get done with it, it's probably a good idea, depending on what's going on, of course. But in something like this, it's like the guys passed away. We don't have a power of attorney, which is a big problem. Why is that a problem? Not having the power of attorney.
well, since all the
Because
paperwork's in
he's
place, I don't know.
because he's still on the deed, ain't he? If you
No,
get
we're
so
on we're
too
on the deed. We're on the deed. He's on the mortgage.
on the
Yeah.
mortgage, yeah.
That's right. He's on the mortgage. So
So
what do we need the power of attorney for?
to be
To
able to
make
get
all the decisions.
a,
Yeah, to make decisions or at least an authorization. We don't have either.
Right.
Power of attorney is stronger. And so the concern there is like I got in his mortgage portal and I got so lucky. Like I can't tell you how lucky I got on this deal. And maybe it's luck, maybe it's God. I think it's I think it was a God thing. I basically I'm meeting in his house the 2 hours before, like we talked about. I'm on his computer and I never do this. I always like wait until after, usually like at closing or after closing to like change the mortgage portal. But I was like, you know what, let's just do it now. And we did it. I changed it to my information. And if I hadn't done that, I'm not sure how we would have got a payoff. I really don't. I don't even think it would have been possible, to be honest with you, because they wouldn't have spoken with me and they wouldn't have spoken to the attorney. And with Cindy's seen that, they won't speak to you unless your name's on it or you're a successor or something like that.
yep.
So man, thank God we got lucky on that for sure. So there's that. Now, how do we find the private lender? This is a question that I think is worth talking about. So I actually have a training on this. I believe I made a YouTube video on it as well, talking about how to find private money. What I've done in the past, and actually I did this one time, and this basically has set us up to use only private money. Now, everyone has different connections. I understand that. But at the same time, when I first got started, I didn't have really many connections either, and it still worked. So what I did is I went through every single contact in my phone and I looked at every single contact and I said, do I think that person maybe has $25,000 in their bank account? If so, yeah, I'm not even going to overthink it. If I think so, I'm going to ask them if they would like to put their money to work if they're looking to invest. And I can give you like the exact text that I send out. This worked for us like really very, very well. And honestly, like the lender that we worked with on this one, we've done like several deals with. And so the loan amount was 215 that we asked for, interest rate 11.5%. I try not to ask too much on the interest rate as far as like a good deal. Like I think like the more accessible the capital, the better. So even if you got to make it 12% versus 10, it's like if you hold the money for 3-4 months, it's like, what is that really even to you? Like, does that even matter? Like to me, it doesn't. If you got a good deal. So we paid him about $2,000 a month every single month, and he's gotten paid basically for the last 4 months, which has been pretty cool, and he loves it. So here's kind of like the full numbers, okay? And this is going to be really important to understand because this is where we're going to talk on like how we got paid to get this deal. Purchase price is 165. Renovation is 70. holding cost, which is like taxes, insurance, utilities, our cost to the lender every month. All of that is 8,000. So basically, between all those three, our total all-in cost is around 243,000. Does that part make sense so far?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. We got a private loan for 215. What does this say? Let's just look at those two numbers. So we're all in at 243. We got a loan for 215. Does anyone see kind of a problem there?
Not enough money.
No.
It's about a $30,000 problem.
Yeah, I had to come out of pocket, right? Because the rehab was more than what I thought. And there's kind of a reason for that. I won't go into, but Cindy knows. Okay. And the after repair value on this was $355,000. So once we put all this money into it, fix it up, that's what we think the property's worth. And honestly, this is conservative. Like there's some that have sold higher than that, 365, but this is a pretty conservative number. So property management, I'm going to skip this unless anybody really wants to talk about it. I think it's kind of like, I mean, you can find property management. It's not hard. The key on this whole slide is basically reach out to other investors to ask them who they use. That's the best way to find a good property manager. That's what I would recommend. Last thing on this, ARV is 355, right? So we're going to talk about cash out refi. Does anyone know what a DSCR loan is? Okay. So Norm understands. Norm, could you explain what it is?
I can attempt it. I've only recently learned about it within the last few months here.
Yeah, that's great.
Basically,
Just whatever you know about it.
All right. So my understanding of it, basically it's like a commercial loan or like a business loan where instead of it hinging on your personal finances, it's hinging more on the, say, the business perspectives of the property. So for example, if you're going to rent it, what's that cash flow look like? And is there enough room for basically the loan to exist, for profit to exist? And there's enough equity remaining. So if the deal goes sour, they can basically foreclose and get their money back. That's kind of the
That's
crude.
right. That's right. You nailed it. So it's called a debt service coverage ratio. So basically what he said, you have to make sure that the rent covers the debt, right? Generally they want it to be like a 1-to-1 ratio. Your mortgage payment's 2,000. They want your rent to be 2,000 or above. That's kind of ideal. It's hard to find nowadays unless you get something really deep. But in this case, they'll give you about 75% loan to value. So they'll take whatever the property is worth, 355, multiply that by 75%. That's the new loan amount that they will give me. Does that part make sense so far, everyone? Okay. So that's the amount they'll give me. Now, what do we still have to pay off?
215.
And where does that 215 come from?
Private
From the
money.
original loan, you pick out the
A private lender. Exactly. Yeah. So we take that 266. We've got to pay off our 215. That leaves us with what? $51,000. So we'll get a check for $51,000. Now, is all of that profit? No. Why is it not profit? Can someone tell me?
Because you came out 28,000 earlier.
Yes. Yeah. Because I went broke for about 4 months, spending 30 grand that I wasn't expecting, right? So the net cash in pocket is like 23,000. Does all the numbers make sense? Do we have questions on that?
No, yeah, it does.
You still got closing and all that come out of it too, or?
Yeah. So realistically, good point, Cody. Realistically, when you do a refinance, you got closing costs and things like that. So, the total cash that may end up being 18, 19, 20, depending on what the closing costs are. So that's a really good point, Cody. Cool. So kind of key takeaways here. Pre-foreclosures, we love them. We talk about them all the time. So I think those are pretty good leads to go after if you know how to have the conversation. There's also plenty of other leads you could go after as well. Subject 2 is like a powerful strategy, but like obviously things can go sideways. So I think it's kind of important to understand when to kind of call it and like switch. Like, because at first we were going to keep this as a rental, like sub 2, we'll just keep it. But then, I don't know, got hairy. I'm like, let's just do something else with it. And that's the importance of also not only focusing on the terms. Like, yes, good terms matter. And like, there's people that talk about, oh, you buy it for what it's worth as long as you get really good terms. And like, there can be truth to that. But in order for that to be true, there's a lot of other things that have to be true as well. Like, where is the property located? Is it in a good area? Is it a newer property or is it an older property that's going to need a ton of work over the next 5 years? Right? Roof and HVAC, like how old are those? All of these things are going to play a role because you don't want to be underwater on a property, no matter how good the interest rate is, right? Because things like this happen. I would say private money is like a lot easier and probably closer to you than you think. I think you'd be surprised the amount of people that are sitting in your phone right now. I know I was, that were willing to sit down and have a conversation with me. And a lot of y'all have an advantage because like when I started doing this, I was, let's see, 21 or 22, I think. It was like my first property that I bought. And I mean, you think about that. If you're 22 and you're sitting down with someone that likely is 50 or 60 years old, that's usually how it goes. And they're thinking, I remember looking at the first lady in the net coffee. I was so nervous. I'm like, oh my gosh, like I can't ask for money, like, you know, and I'm just like, well, I'm going to do it anyways. This is what I've been told to do. So I'm going to go just walk in faith and do it. Sit in front of this. And I said, so like, how much would you want to invest? And I'm thinking she's going to say 10 grand. She's like, oh man, I have a few 100,000. Like we could do like, could we start off with like 100? Like, would that be okay? Cindy knows me. I was like, yeah, I think that would work. I think that'd be okay. You know, so you never know until you get into it. And then you get confidence. And then she actually, you know, what's funny is that lady connected me with the lender for this deal.
Mm.
It's so crazy. I didn't even pick that until just now. She connected me with this person who lends probably $600,000, $700,000, $800,000 at a time.
Wow.
So you just never know who you're going to meet. So maybe in your contacts, you text these people, maybe they got 50 grand, but maybe they know someone that has $1 million. And you work with them on the 50, you treat them well, and they start talking about you. Man, that's how the spider web grows.
Yeah.
You know, and this is how you really start growing a business, is like thinking that way of like, man, what, maybe I don't know directly how this is going to lead, but like taking that step forward, you just don't know what that's going to do. You really don't. You don't know. So that's my takeaway for sure. So that's all I have for this presentation. Kind of want to just press pause here and any questions that we have on this deal specifically, or somebody likes that. I know why. Or any questions you have in general. Deals you want us to look at, anything. Here for you for the next 30 minutes. So
What about that lady you met with for the very first time? How'd that end up going?
ooh, which one?
Did y'all do something? Did y'all do a deal together? The one that was like, I got 100,000 when you was 21
Oh
or
yeah.
20? How'd
Yeah,
that go?
we did it. We did a deal about 2 weeks after that. Yeah, it went really well. She got paid out on it in a couple months, and then we just put it right back into the next one. And that's the thing: if you go raise money once, like really well, you almost don't have to do it again for a long time because you just keep recycling it. And then now
Is
you
she
don't have to
still
deal
around?
with
Do
hard
you
money
still?
lenders. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Still use her. Still use them, and it's great. It really is.
Oh, all right.
Looking for you.
Great question.
It's gonna be a little bit of a backtrack, I guess, for this group, so I apologize in advance.
No, it's okay.
My first time on the call, I'm still trying to learn a lot about the creative financing side and
Yeah.
all these things. So for everyone else, my background was over the past few decades, I've done soft flips, slow flips, like live-in flips, things like that. But I've always used traditional MLS listings and traditional bank mortgages and everything else. So basically, I was completely ignorant to all this world until I joined Ren last year, and then I started hearing all these things like, oh, so these aren't just all these wild, crazy theories that you see on YouTube. There's actually some legitimacy to them. But that all being said, you also got introduced to wholesaling concepts, things like that. But of course, with all of those, like traditional wholesaling strategies, from what I learned, to me, it's a little bit weird because you're just trying to like, oh, somebody's grass is overgrown. There's too many newspapers, or the house is not maintained. You know, maybe they might want to sell. And to me, it's a little bit creepy in a way of how do you approach that seller and try to find if they're in distress or not without, hey, I'm spying on you, right? But what I like about what you're doing here, Evan, is the pre-foreclosure, right? Because that's public knowledge, public data. And I think that's a little bit cleaner initial intro, right? But that's something I'd like to clarify a little bit is, how are you finding these? And also, how do you break the ice with the owner? Because I think that's the biggest challenge with any of these creative strategies, or, how do you present yourself without looking like somebody's creeping on them or spying on them or any of those things I can imagine being an objection in their mind, right?
That's a great question. And Cindy does acquisitions for us too, and she's honestly more on the phones and probably could tell you more than I could.
Okay.
Cindy, maybe do you have any input on that?
I just think it comes from your confidence. Like we've started
Mhm.
calling a lot of relatives,
Yeah.
and it's just if you come across as, hey, I know you're a relative of Billy Bob, and unfortunately the lender's given him some trouble, and I just want to confirm, do I have the right contact number so I can get hold of him, or do you have that so I can help him out? It's just kind of
Mhm.
and sometimes they'll come across as rude, so because they don't,
Yeah.
who is this? What are you
Right.
doing? And when you come back at like, this is who I am, this is what we do, just thought I'd help you
Mhm.
out. They can kind of hear it in your voice
Yeah.
most of the time. Yeah. And I tell Evan, I'm really surprised how few times you run into the rude, nasty people. It's
Really?
really like 10% of the time, if even, you know?
Yep,
Yeah.
that's right. Good
So how are
point.
you finding the pre-foreclosures though? That's something I'm not really familiar with yet. County
Yeah.
website?
So there's a couple. Yeah, you can look them up on the county website for sure. That's kind of how we started, and we had a
Mhm.
VA that would just go through there and basically pull all of those manually because it just takes time. But I'm sure you could use Claude or something now to do it. I bet there's a way. So that would be a thing. You can also there's a couple different platforms that you can use to like automate some of this stuff. And
Mhm.
so it just kind of depends on like how much money you want to spend, honestly, on marketing. Like that's kind of would be my first question.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the
Um,
cheaper, it's more manual, obviously.
yeah. What about services like PropStream and others? It seems like a lot of their data is kind of old. Is it really scraping real time or?
Yeah. Yeah. For foreclosures and stuff, like those are usually going to be probably, I don't want to say a number, but let's just say 2 weeks old or something like that. Yeah. So that's kind of tough. I mean, I think PropStream can be good. I mean, we used PropStream like for the first like 2 years in our business. Um,
Mm.
and I have like if any of y'all are on PropStream and you want to help me out, I have an affiliate link for PropStream. And if you use it, it actually does help me. And I do these calls for free every week. I don't ask for anything. So if you have a PropStream, let me know. It would mean a lot to me. But also, I think I could show you a couple lists probably on there to pull if you were looking for something just a little cheaper like that.
Yeah.
I would look at either pre-foreclosures or probates.
Mhm.
Those are the two that I would focus on
Okay.
if I were you. If you
Yeah.
ever have a deal that you have questions on, like feel free to call me and we could talk through it or text me.
Okay. Sounds good.
Yeah, great question.
Thanks.
Um,
So what do
what
you
else y'all
just
got?
you just go to the county websites mainly? I mean, you probably got some you got something you pay for now, but in the beginning you just used county websites or
hmm
what?
That's right.
What
Yeah,
about
just county websites.
what about your Zillows and Redfins and homes and all that? How accurate are they as far as foreclosures using the filter just foreclosure? Are they pretty accurate?
Say that one more time. I'm sorry.
Okay. So are your homes.com and Zillow and all them
Oh,
just
yeah,
using the
yeah.
filter for foreclosures?
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, yeah. You can go on Zillow or like auction.com. Yeah,
They're
they're pretty
pretty
good.
accurate and ain't like
hmm
old or anything like that.
No, I would say they're pretty accurate. I mean, if anything, it usually reflects within a day or two if there's a change.
Yeah.
So it may be like slightly, but like not enough to like say don't do it. Like if you're just looking to get started for free,
Yeah.
you can go
I
on
know
there. Just
uh I know Carolyn Kane tells you to um go on there first before you call, when she gives you your list or whatever. You familiar
Mhm.
with what she does for people or whatever and stuff too. But
Yeah,
she always tells you to go and make sure it still says it's for in foreclosure. So I guess it must be pretty accurate. But
yeah.
um auction.com, I guess I haven't tried it yet, but
hmm
I don't know.
You've been calling agents. I know last time we talked, you were
Yes.
saying you might. How's that going?
It's going on. I'm getting a little better at talking to them.
Good.
That's really what it boils down to is like Cindy said, they even the agents, they can hear it in your voice. They can
Yeah.
tell if, you know, if they want to talk to you or not. You know,
Yes.
because in the beginning it was like, even, I could hear it in my own voice. I wouldn't want to talk to me.
Mm. Ah, that's good, dude. Isn't that so true? Like I
Yeah.
feel like we all can kind of fall into that if we're not careful.
Well, we do
Yeah.
call reviews and now on a regular basis, and wow, when you hear yourself on the call review,
Oh,
like I
it's
thought I
it's
sounded good. I thought I did well.
Right.
it's so cringy, isn't it? To listen to
Yes,
yourself.
it is.
It's tough. Yeah. And I think like that's the whole game, man. What you just said. It's like just getting a little bit better about it, you know, hearing yourself. And I like what you said too. It's like you wouldn't even want to talk to yourself, you know? What do you
Hmm.
what do you feel like was the biggest change like in the last 2 weeks?
Um, just a little bit more comfortable with what I'm talking about and just
Hmm.
repetition. I kind of know what I'm gonna say. Um, I'm
Yep.
not, you know, stuttering as much or
Hmm.
um not pausing as much, like, kind of like I am now talking to y'all. I kind of know what I'm gonna say when I get on there.
Yeah, dude.
And
That's
I
it.
talked to one, and she didn't she didn't she didn't go for it. Um,
Mm,
and
yeah.
well, it's the one I think I told y'all about last week. Like, I felt like I led her on and ended up sending her a message and apologized. I never heard back from her. She's probably mad at me. But
You're so
anyway, I was like, I I said, trying to save them from the capital gains, and she's like, oh, they're not gonna pay capital gains. They're gonna take it and put it into the next house. They won't pay in capital gains. And I'm like, maybe
All
that's
right.
true. I thought that was only for investors or
think it's
something,
first
but
time buyers too. I think it's first time buyers,
first
Is
time
it
buyers.
isn't it?
or if you lived in the house for like 2 of the last 5 years, you don't pay taxes on like the like 250 grand in capital gains, like up to 250 grand, you can make like without paying taxes or without paying capital gains. Or if you're married, it's 500,000 if you live in the property for 2 out of the 5 years.
Okay.
She told me,
Do you
I'm
have to
sorry.
then invest it into another property, or no, you just avoid it
No,
altogether?
you can just
Okay.
keep it. Yeah.
Okay. Did not know that.
Yeah, I always thought you had to reinvest.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah,
She
That's what
told
the
me that
1031 exchange.
yeah.
That's
you
what the
could
investment
go up
property.
to you could go up to $1 million before you
Yeah.
had to pay tax, capital gains. Is that right?
No,
She's lying. I knew she's
not
lying
true.
to me.
You're lying to, man.
I knew it, but I didn't argue with her.
Hey, we got
She's
to change
lying.
our saying. We got because our mentor says
Yeah.
say buyers are liars and sellers are worse. We'll have to add it.
Sellers are worse. Yep.
And agents too.
Hmm. They the sellers. Yeah.
Into the worst.
Hmm.
Love it, dude. Hey, well, I'm proud of you, man. You're taking action.
Yep.
That's how
Um.
you're internalizing. Like that's what you're doing too. When you every time you do a call like that, you're starting to memorize what you're saying and internalize it. And the cool thing about doing that over and over and over, which is why I recommend picking a niche and sticking with it versus calling 1,000 different people. Like when I first started, I called people with like every single problem.
Yeah.
And so, like, what does that mean for me? I'm not really good at solving any of them.
Right.
I'm just like, I'm good at talking to a lot of people that have problems. That's about it.
Right.
Doesn't mean I actually know how to solve their problem. So I think for you, for agents, it's like, what is their problem most of the time? The people that you're calling. And I think thinking
Hmm.
through that, like, what is their problem? How can I solve it? How can I solve it in a way where they even feel like the hero instead of me feeling like the hero? Like, how can I
Hmm.
tee them up to be like, oh, they're the hero because they helped their sellers because they were willing to look at some of these things. Man,
Mhm.
so many agents aren't even willing to look at this kind of stuff. It sounds like you're always sounds like you're really open to things like this. Like what even I guess for you, like how do you feel like that has helped you in your real estate business? Oh my gosh, it's helped me because I'm not like every other agent. There you go.
Yeah.
Now we can talk about it. You know,
Yep. Yep.
That's awesome, dude. And then the more you internalize these things, like Cindy and I talked about this today. Well, maybe we didn't talk about it. Maybe it was just in my head, and I acted like we had this conversation. One of the things I was thinking about is like as we start to memorize, what happens is we think that the better we memorize, that we'll just have a script that we can only read. But the thing is like if you have five different points that you want to cover throughout that call, the cool thing is if you really deeply internalize those five things, then what can you do? You can talk about number one, and then you can kind of go off on these little rabbit holes that you feel like maybe are necessary to cover. And then you don't even have to guess where you're going next. It's like, oh, I'm going to number two now. Now it's time to kind of shift this. And you can kind of just go through the list and still kind of branch out like you're talking. So nice.
Yeah, I can't hardly go off a script. Now I could
All right.
have a few things that, like you said, I could have 4 or 5 things that I definitely want to hit and keep them memorized. But
Mhm.
if I'm going off a script, I'm over here trying to read a piece of paper. I'm not hearing what she's saying. I'm not, you know what I mean? Like
Yep.
I'm not a multitasker.
Yeah.
I
You're
want to
not.
be, but I'm not.
Someone told me once to memorize your script and really learn, because I find scripts extremely helpful.
Yeah.
But they're helpful because I've been on so many calls with Evan, follow-up calls, and
Mhm.
I'm just like in awe, like, oh my gosh, like he's just literally going through the script. Now he's
Yeah,
not reading it anymore. He knows it. He's internalized it, like he said, but it's not like some
Mhm.
magic communication. I mean, he is an excellent communicator, but
yeah,
I get the point that, wow, he literally is going through those points on the script. So you just kind of, like you said, learn it, or even if you say it a bunch of times where you're comfortable. So even if you're reading it, it sounds natural. It doesn't sound like you're reading it because you're so comfortable with it. You can put your own tone in and you can put your own pause.
Right.
Yeah.
Hmm. That's so good. You can make it your own.
Yeah.
So with these
Mhm.
kind of scripts, are there like any recommended ones out there, or do we just have to come up with it on our own? Or
What it kind of depends on who you're calling, to be
okay,
honest.
yeah,
So
I know
if
for
do you have
me,
any idea of kind of what you want to go? Yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I know for me, I I told Claude or ChatGPT in one, who
Mhm.
I was calling, what I was calling about, what my
Mhm.
objective was. It's all about context, and
mhm,
it gave me some pretty good ideas and
okay,
uh, you know,
That's great.
uh, pretty good scripts and like things to say and things not to do, and so I just gotta use it.
yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Norm, what about you, man? Is there kind of a list or a group that you've kind of been thinking about trying to call?
Well, in the general sense, I'm mostly interested in the pre-foreclosure
Yeah.
aspect, but I don't know if there's a better way to get more focused within that niche. That would be, I guess, the
Mhm.
first thing to figure out.
Yeah. What does that mean? Like more focused on me? What do you think?
Well, I'm saying I don't know. Like, is saying pre-foreclosure, is that focused enough, or is there another layer I'm not even thinking about that I should focus on more sharp?
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, I would say pre-foreclosure is just like an area that you want to be in.
Yeah.
That's what
Okay.
I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, because something you and I talked about the other day, and if you don't mind, and I think it might be good to get Cindy or anyone else's feedback on this. But
Yeah.
one of the reasons why I have so much interest in pre-foreclosure, because one of my investment properties went from cash flowing, doing really, really well, to turning completely sideways during the pandemic.
Mhm.
There was this older woman, she was renting it. She had plenty of money. For whatever reason, though, when the government said, "Oh, you don't have to pay your rent and they can't kick you out,"
Oh,
she just
no.
stopped paying rent.
Mm.
And then because she stopped paying rent, she would not take any of my phone calls. She just ignored me. Well, after 3 years of this going on, or two and a half
Wow.
years, whatever it was, um, this was down in Louisiana, so it was like forever. But eventually, what I found out is a long time before, the AC had failed, the roof started leaking, like so many issues developed with the home. She didn't tell me
Oh,
because she knew she wasn't paying rent. So she's like, well, I can't ask this guy to fix stuff if I'm not paying rent. So she's trying to dodge me. Meanwhile, the house is falling apart. I have no idea because I'm on a state. But I had a property manager for a different property, and eventually I asked her, I said, "Hey, can you go check on this house? Because now suddenly the bank is asking for all this, back taxes, back fees, and everything else because it was kind of just out there in this limbo land for a little while during the pandemic." And that's when she told me, she goes, "Oh, your house is falling apart." And I'm like, "What?" Anyway, so I didn't know what to do really because to make all those repairs, to get everything back caught up, whatever. Again, with her living there rent free for such a long time, I was in complete distress. I'm like, I don't know what to do. And I wasn't too worried about it first because just like her, there was a moratorium on banks foreclosing, right? So I was kind of like, okay, well, we'll get this all figured out. But then suddenly, like a switch flipped, and suddenly the bank's like, hey, you have like X number of days to get this all sorted. And at that point, I'm finding out that this house is like falling apart and everything else. But I had a friend of mine who he's a licensed real estate agent, but he deals a lot with HUD and with foreclosures and things like that. So he saw the filings go for pre-foreclosure. He calls me and goes, "Dude, how the hell do you have a property that's pre-foreclosing?"
And you're like, I didn't know.
Yeah, and I'm like, well, yeah, because like I had no idea, right? Like it kind of just blindsided me. And I told him what was going on. So he deals with this stuff as a real estate agent. He's like, "Hey, look, if you can give me a power of attorney, if you'll sign this contract, because I will find you an investor. I will go in there. I will kick her out. I will change the locks. I will do all these things on your behalf, and we will avoid foreclosure." I'm like, but I have I think it's like less than a week or something, right? Maybe 2 weeks max.
Wow.
By the time he got a hold of it. He goes, "Look, I'm going to have to work my butt off." He goes, "But I can do that." He's like, "You won't make any money probably because I'll try to get you a little bit of money." He goes, "But."
Sounds familiar. That's what we say.
Yeah. And so I told him, I said, "I don't care. I just want to avoid the foreclosure. And right now, I don't have the cash to rehab the home, do all these things, and plus being out of state to go kick her out and to just deal with all this stuff remotely, right?" And that's the real problem he solved, though, was
Right.
he had an index of investors. He knew the process. He was like, "Hey, look, if you sign this power of attorney, that gives me access to break in to the house," because he observed that there was no signs that she was living there. She, looked like she might have moved out like 2 weeks before or whatever. So he's like, "I'm going to break in, going to go in your house, verify it's vacant, change the locks, call the sheriff, tell him what's going on before I head over there, so in case there is any issue." So he did all that stuff for me. And then sure enough, pretty quickly, he found an investor to come in, scoop it up. So exactly this kind of scenario, right? But that's why it's attractive to me because I understand the pain, the panic, and the relief that someone can provide.
Exactly.
So to me, it's not like a sales pitch. It's not like I need to convince someone. And where I'm going with all that is, I think my script, so to speak, if you want to call it that, would be more or less maybe like leaning into that, right? Like, hey, it looks like this property's up for foreclosure. I've been there before, and there's a way out if you're open to ideas. Do you want to have a conversation on that?
Yeah.
That would crush. That would crush.
You can hear the belief in your voice. It's so solid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I've been there. Yeah. I mean, I truly understand the value of it.
Yeah, you just explained it. Yeah. And that guy did just what we do, except not a power of attorney. We would just have a signed agreement. But yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly what we do. That's awesome.
So cool, dude.
Okay.
Thanks for sharing
that's my interest, and that's why that's what I feel like I can lean into. Because, like I said at the beginning of the call, traditional wholesaling, just looking at properties that might look like they might be in distress, it might not be, right? Some people just don't have a tidy yard or whatever. I mean, there's a lot of reasons why a home might look distressed, but the owner is perfectly fine. I mean, like my dad was one of those guys. He lived in the country. He had everything paid off. He worked a lot. He had too much land to keep up with. So at times it would get overgrown. It would look rough or whatever, right? But he was in no position to want to sell. He had no mortgage or nothing, and he was happy as a lark, and he didn't mind the yard being a little overgrown or whatever from time to time, And again, that's where I feel like it'd be weird going to somebody like, say, I could picture my dad. Yeah, I mean, he's kind of got to chase you off the lawn with a shotgun. Be like, what are you doing? But I feel like the pre-foreclosure route, again, I feel like that aligns more to my experience and something I can speak more confidently on and more passionately on.
Yeah. And there's a pain for sure.
That's right. I love it, man. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah. And that's what I want these calls to be about is like, let's learn how to help people Let's learn how to structure deals so that we can help more people. That's the
Yeah.
big thing about creative finance. Is like if you get into creative finance just because like people that don't last with that
Hmm.
are the people that don't really maybe I don't think they enjoy like the process of actually serving and like learning how to solve the puzzle. They just want to like get a good interest rate. And that's kind of it. And it's like that's not what it's about. And if
Hmm.
you think that way, it's like it's just going to be really tough to get deals consistently because people can feel that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's what it's about. And when you learn creative finance, like if you call 10 homeowners in free foreclosure, Cindy will tell you if unless you're really filtering for this, you may be able to do something with two or three of those with like
Hmm.
a cash offer, like equity position, like they have enough equity to actually sell to you at a cash price. That's not considering the people that actually will. That's just people that you could based off what they owe. So what about
Hmm.
those other 7 or 8 people? What do you do with those? That's what
Hmm.
that's what our community is about, is like learning what to do with those 8. Because if you can do that, you won't go out of business. You go out of business when you spend so much on marketing and you get so little in contracts. Like that's when you go out of business. Like you spend too much
Yeah.
and your cost per contract is too high.
Hmm.
And how do you get your
Hmm.
cost per contract down? You either get better at marketing or you get better at deal structure.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think the deal
What?
structure is where I need to definitely have some coaching, mentorship, studying, or whatever. Because, like I said, I've always done the traditional bank route and MLS route and all those things like that. And um,
Yeah.
clearly, this changes everything, right?
Yeah, for sure. And maybe what we could do is like maybe next week we can get coffee and we can just like sit down and kind of talk through some of like whatever the questions you have and just even if it's just like a starting point for you to kind of have
Okay.
some conversations with people and then just kind of take it from there, you know. And if we want to partner on some deals, that's cool too.
Yeah.
Alex, did you have anything? I know you've been chilling here. I want to make sure you get any questions answered if you had something this week.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's kind of like about a call that I had yesterday, and so it's not
Tell me
really
about it.
pertaining to what we have been talking about, but yeah, I was talking with a homeowner who's facing foreclosure, and I was kind of like walking through, the options like I normally go through, and there was this like awkward moment where we were discussing the option of him doing a bankruptcy, and he said that he really didn't want to do that, and he talked about the importance of like keeping his home, and so I just like kind of verbally like said it back to him, reflected to him. So keeping your home is really important to you, and said yes. And then the next thing that I had planned on saying was, well, your last option would be to sell your home. So I'm like, kind of like, okay, how am I going to bridge this from me just acknowledging that you don't want to sell into saying, that's an option for you. And what I ended up doing was I had him just describe to me what it would be like if you didn't have the stress of the monthly payment and you didn't have the stress of the foreclosure, and just kind of like paint that picture. And I feel like that kind of helped bridge it all right, but I was just wondering if there's maybe a smoother way that I could have handled that.
I think that's a good start.
Okay.
I think there's a few routes you can go. Cindy, what comes to your mind first?
I'm not sure I heard it all because the kittens were doing something. I had to check them, but I
In
think
short, he said he didn't want to file bankruptcy, and then Alex said, "Well, do you want to keep your house?" He said, "Yes, I want to keep my house. That's super important to me." And then the next option was talking about selling. So Alex is like, "How do I bridge that gap? Like, how do I talk about selling when he just said he wants to keep his house?" That's the question.
okay, thanks. I probably would. I'm sure you went over reinstating and he couldn't, and a loan modification he couldn't, and you were on bankruptcy.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, we have a saying that's really pretty good that we say, well, I totally hear you and understand, and kind of maybe reiterate, we looked at the other 3 options. You agree that's just not going to work. So, the common thread we find with most homeowners who are able to stop the foreclosure is that they're willing to look at all options, not just the ones they really want.
Yeah.
So the fourth option would be to sell your home. And
Okay.
that's kind of how we bridge that.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a good way to bridge it. I think another thing you can do too, even before that, is man, it is pouring outside. I don't know if it's pouring where y'all are at, but it is like
We had it earlier today.
insane. I
Yeah.
know. Should I be like a total snob and like get my Tesla to like drive up here.
Yes,
Like I could press the button, just get the drive
I
out and
would.
walk out. I
Why
might,
not?
I might, I might. Um, Sometimes it doesn't work and it gets stuck and like people get really mad. It's hilarious. That's maybe more of a reason why I should do it, just to piss people off. Um, Y'all are awesome. Um, yeah, I mean, another thing you can do too is kind of double down on like what he would do if he doesn't stop it. Like that's kind of where I would go first. It's like, so you want to keep your house? Like, yes, okay, but like, let's say you go through. I mean, 'cause we talked about reinstatement not being an option. We talked about loan mod not being an option, and potentially like sounds like you're talking about bankruptcy. But I guess like if all those options weren't able to actually help you keep your house, you end up losing it to the bank, not walking away with any cash, and they end up, I guess, kicking you out on the street, like you and your family. Like what would you end up doing then?
Okay.
Ask it like that way.
Yeah. Yeah, where it's just kind of like not like aggressive asking, but just being like empathetic and just kind of being, truthful about the situation of like, hey, this is what we're heading towards.
Yeah.
We went over 4 options and 3 of them are disqualified. So, I know you don't want to entertain it, but what's risky? Entertaining a sale or letting the bank take your home.
That's right. That's exactly right. And what do you do for those of you on the call that maybe haven't been able to handle this part? If you ask someone a hard question and they say, I don't know, what's a way to get around that?
What if you really thought about it?
Yeah. What if you really thought about it? You'd be surprised the amount of people that will just give you an answer after that. Yeah. Well, what if you really thought about it though? Just don't let them off the hook. Because if you let them off the hook, who are you letting off the hook if you let them off? If you let them, like they're them. It's like they're when they're telling you something, they're telling themselves the real situation.
Yeah.
Right. Which is what they've been unwilling to do for the last 6 months, is actually look it head on and say, and I shouldn't say everyone, most people that have been in foreclosure for 12 months, or not foreclosure, but they've been behind for 12 months, have not been willing to look the problem in the face and say, hey, I need to do something about this. Because it's hard.
Yeah.
And I've had times where I was telling Amir on my team to say, there was a time where I was a negative $120,000 in the hole. So I know what it feels like to feel financial stress.
Yeah.
And I know the temptations to not want to look at it, to not want to look at your bank account every morning. I understand that. Trust me, I do. But that's the difference between people that go there or people that get out of it. Honestly. And so your job is not to get people that are stonewalled, no, I'm not working with you, to a yes. It's to get the maybes to a yes.
Yeah.
So who are the maybes? The maybes are the people that you're just talking about. Whether they're open to talking to you, they want your help as the authority figure, and they're lost. They don't know what to do. And so you need to ask them, hey, like what would happen? And they say, well, I don't really know. Well, what if you really thought about it though? Man, I couldn't even think about it. Well, why is that though? You gotta dig. Because this is you're the only person that's gonna help them.
Exactly. And I do have a follow-up call scheduled with this individual next week. So yeah, I'm excited for that.
Perfect. Let me know how it goes, man. And if you have questions like before the call,
yeah, absolutely.
Let me know. Maybe I can give you kind of a framework to get them.
Great.
Cool. Anything else? Yeah, for sure. Thanks for being on here. Anything else y'all got before we hop off? Pablo's getting wild. Pablo's getting wild.
You're used to coffee shops. This is a little wild for you.
This is crazy, man. And now it's raining. Everyone's like sprinting in here. Man. Hey, thank y'all for taking your Wednesday night. Yeah. Sure.
I actually have to go. No, so I just want to say thank you.
Cool.
Okay.
Yeah, thank y'all for taking your Wednesday night. Hopefully I'll see y'all next week.
Yep. Take care, everybody. Thanks, Evan.
Yeah, dude. Thanks, man.